Welcome back to today's Explainer. If you're a C-suite executive, a project director, or a security pro whose day job is safeguarding critical assets, you already know the deal. Designing and implementing a genuinely secure environment is an incredibly complex, high-stakes puzzle. Well, today, we are unpacking the methodology behind Vigilantis. We're going to see exactly how this unique firm delivers end-to-end, totally vendor-independent physical security and extra-low voltage or ELV system designs to clients all over the world. And the crazy part, they do it completely remotely. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll look at the vendor-independent advantage, how they assess threats, their full-spectrum design capabilities, specialized government facilities, and finally, some global success stories. All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the vendor-independent advantage, and why neutrality really matters. So think about the traditional consulting market for a second. It is often packed with what the source material frankly calls box-ticking consultants. You really have to look at a firm's underlying motivations. On one hand, you have vendor-tied consultants. These guys are often driven by back-end commission structures or cozy partnerships with specific hardware manufacturers. But on the other hand, you have the Vigilantis model. They hold absolutely zero vendor partnerships, no sales quotas for specific equipment, none of it. Every single recommendation they make is driven purely by your actual security needs. Unbiased consulting means you get the perfectly sized solution for your risk profile, not just the hardware that happens to pad the vendor's bottom line the most. And look, this independence isn't just some marketing fluff, right? It's backed by serious world-class credibility. The principals at Vigilantis bring over 15 years of hardcore, high-security government expertise to the table. We're talking about delivering designs across 3 continents for embassies, critical national infrastructure, and elite private institutions. You are getting unbiased advice from folks who have operated at the absolute highest levels of global security. Moving on to Section 2, assessing and mitigating threats. This is all about structured gap identification. A successful security architecture always starts with a rigorous evaluation. This step-by-step methodology shows the full life cycle Vigilantis takes a project through. Step 1 is the risk assessment to find the vulnerabilities. Step 2 is concept design, where that risk-informed layout actually takes shape. Step 3 is building tender-ready technical specifications so you get competitive, accurate bidding. And finally, Step 4 is construction oversight and site acceptance testing. They don't just hand you a PDF and walk away. They stick with you from that very first threat scan all the way to watching the final tests on the installed systems. Let's zoom in on that first step for a moment, the risk assessment. You can see how structured they are here. They evaluate vulnerabilities across 3 main pillars: people, process, and technology. Because let's be real, security is never just about installing fancy cameras and gates. It's about how your staff actually operates on the ground. And the deliverable you get? It's not some dense theoretical textbook. They give you prioritized, costed mitigation roadmaps aligned to international frameworks. It is actionable data that your board of directors can actually look at and use to allocate their budgets efficiently. Okay, Section 3, designing full spectrum security, taking it from ELV all the way through to construction oversight. Once the gaps are identified, we get into the heavy lifting of the design phase. Vigilantis engineers a highly coordinated architecture, and just look at the sheer breadth of these systems. On the ELV side, they design everything from the foundational Cat 6A and fiber cabling, to building management systems, and even specialized healthcare tech like nurse calls. Then on the physical security side, it scales from standard CCTV up to some wildly advanced stuff: automatic number plate recognition, hostile vehicle mitigation, and literally commercial drone interceptors. The big takeaway here is that all of this is designed cohesively for long-term maintainability. It's not just a bunch of disparate systems bolted together at the last minute. And this quote right here brilliantly illustrates why having an independent expert oversee those technical specs is a total lifesaver. This is from Rachel Pemberton, a project manager for UK commercial property. Her main contractor tried to push systems that weren't originally specified. We all know that's a classic tactic to bump up contractor margins, right? Well, Vigilantis stepped in, reviewed the submissions, and protected the client from a massive budget deviation. By shutting down those unauthorized substitutions, their oversight literally paid for itself 10 times over. That brings us to Section 4, specialized government facilities. Let's talk about precision and standards. Let's pivot to environments where there is literally zero margin for error. One of their core capabilities is designing SIFs, sensitive compartmented information facilities. If you aren't familiar, these are highly classified physical spaces used by government and intelligence agencies to handle highly classified info. Designing a SIF requires absolute pinpoint precision to meet international intelligence standards, like the super stringent ICD 705 standard. Earning the trust to engineer these classified spaces is just a massive validation of their technical chops. But hey, this ultra-high security mindset isn't kept locked away just for government agencies. Vigilantis actively applies these principles across 10 highly diverse, mission-critical sectors all over the globe. Whether they are protecting a high-yield data center, a massive hospital complex, banking infrastructure, or a major transportation hub, they adapt that rigorous government-grade methodology to fit the unique operational realities of your specific industry.
Finally, Section 5, Global Client Success Stories. Let's look at how this remote delivery actually works out in the real world. So how do they pull this off globally? Well, Vigilantis is headquartered out of the UAE, but their core operating model is remote first. And honestly, for international clients, this is a real game changer. Because they rely on remote design and advisory, they can deliver world-class oversight to projects anywhere on the planet without stacking up those heavily inflated on-site consulting costs. It keeps engagements incredibly fast and cost-efficient.
Let's see what the clients actually say. Check out this feedback from Natalie Burrows, head of IT infrastructure and private banking. She points out that the Vigilantis risk assessment uncovered critical vulnerabilities that her previous standard consultants had completely missed. It just goes to show that if you want real security, you need a genuinely expert, methodical approach, not just someone checking boxes on a clipboard.
And what about that remote delivery aspect? Mohammed Al-Farsi, a facilities director for a healthcare group, states they handled the entire ELV and security scope entirely remotely with, and this is the key phrase, zero drop in quality. Healthcare scopes are incredibly complex, so delivering that flawlessly from afar and earning a commitment for every future development, that speaks volumes.
If you're a construction head or a project director tuning into this explainer, this next one is basically the ultimate dream scenario. Daniel LaCroix in Canada highlights that the remote technical documents, the drawings, the specs, the bills of quantities, were so precise they required virtually no rework on the site. Rework is an absolute budget killer, so having conflict-free designs right out of the gate is absolutely massive. And our final success story comes from James To in Singapore. He notes that the exceptionally detailed technical specs held up against intense contractor scrutiny during the tender process. When you put a project out to bid, contractors will absolutely hunt for loopholes. Having rock-solid, independent specs ensures your tender process stays fair, transparent, and totally aligned with your needs. It proves this vendor-independent, remote-first model works flawlessly, from Canada to Singapore.
Which brings me to my final question for you to chew on today. Think about your own upcoming projects. Are your current security designs genuinely unbiased, perfectly tailored to your risk profile, and totally vulnerability-free? Or are you unknowingly just funding a vendor's most profitable off-the-shelf package? It's a crucial difference, and it's one that can literally cost or save your organizations millions of dollars. If you aren't 100% sure of the answer, it might just be time to get a truly independent assessment. Thanks so much for joining me today as we explored the Vigilantis methodology, and remember to always keep questioning the standards of your own security infrastructure.